Not just kidding. This is sweet tea, in case you're wondering. Delicious sweet tea, by the way. Hello, welcome back. It is the Y'all Show. And while we got drinking on our mind, I wanted to tell you about something that I recently discovered that you probably have seen if you drive on the highways as much as I do. And that is this thing that these trucks carry from time to time on flatbeds across the Southland. 18 wheelers got their flatbed haul, and there's this wood on the back that I haven't been able to figure out what it is. So here's what I'm talking about, in case you have seen this in your part of Dixie. That is called stave. And there are mills that are specific to making stave in certain parts of our region. And I had to find out what stave is. Stave is a type of white oak that is used in the making of whiskey. And so we've got a lot of distilleries across the South, and I'm going to show a graphic here in a second that our crack team here at the Y'all Show has come up with. But look at that, and it's pretty neat how that goes on these trucks and goes to these distilleries across the South. We'll discuss more about what stave is in a second, but make no doubt about it, the whiskey industry is a major force across the region. We've got, of course, Kentucky and Tennessee leading the way. We always know about the battle between Kentucky bourbon and Tennessee whiskey. But you know, a lot of states now are bragging about their own local distilleries. It's big business. In fact, here's a look at some of our whiskey distilleries in the United States. Drink responsibly, FYI. But check that out. From Texas to Maryland, we've got a bunch across the Southland. And again, shout out to Kentucky and Tennessee for sort of being the capitals of this industry for a long, long time, whether it's Jim Beam or Mr. Jack Daniel. But a lot of folks have popped up around the South, and I certainly don't claim to be an expert at drinking, but some people have told me, oh, you've got to have this and you got to have that. They bragged about what's coming out of like St. Augustine with the St. Augustine Distillery. And then in Virginia, that distillery there that they've got there in Purcellville, I hear really good things about. And I know we're leaving a lot out. For example, in Mississippi, someone told me that there's a distillery in Brett Favre's hometown of Kiln called Crittenden, and they do a wonderful job. Again, there are many that I'm leaving out, but here's a good map showing you from the hills of Kentucky to the coastlines of the Carolinas. Whiskey distillation remains a strong part of the Southern tradition. Amen to that. So it's big business across the South. Well, no matter where you're located in the South, you still need the products to distill. It's a very long process, the making of spirits. And some of these places, by the way, I know I've been to not Tullahoma, I've been to Lynchburg, right down from Tullahoma to the Jack Daniel distillery. And I'm sure many of these places offer tours like Jack Daniel does. But it's really a neat thing to see. And a lot of time, a lot of love, and a lot of patience go into the whiskey business. But if you're able to see a distillery in the process, you'll see all this wood around and all these barrels around. Well, that comes from stave. And so back to what our topic of the day is, stave, as you can see from this awesome graphic here. Love the Y'all Show bottle there on the right-hand side if you're able to watch this on our YouTube channel. Stave is a precisely cut oak. It comes from white oak that is shaped and used to build whiskey barrels. And you can see on a graphic here how that white oak is cut, and then it goes from a lumber mill. They have to season it. They got to stack them outside for a while. And then, as it says in number 3, they're cut into staves as lumber is cut with precise dimensions and tapered ends. And it's really neat how that stuff ends up going to these distilleries, and then they put their own loving touch to them to get these staves turned into whiskey barrels, and they assemble the barrels, usually at the different distilleries. Because every distillery's got their own, I guess, criteria, but they create a very strong, leak-tight barrel. Boy, I'd hate to have a whiskey barrel that's not quite leak-proof and have that thing spew out. But I mean, again, I don't claim to be an expert at this subject, but something tells me that before it's aged properly, that's some nasty stuff. I'm just guessing out there. But again, you have to have the tools to make your distillery thrive, and having the correct white oak stave come in is a big part of it. And again, white oak, if you don't know, is grown, or you can find it almost everywhere in the South. The exceptions are Central and South Florida, and then some of West Texas. Those are the most unlikely areas for white oak to be grown. But otherwise, you got white oak all over the place, and it's a very, very important part of our timber industry in the Southeast. But you'll see, as we are showing off here, how staves from white oak are used in the whiskey production, and it's a beautiful thing to see. Now, again, going back to our picture from earlier of where we showed off what they end up looking like coming out of the factory, going to the distilleries, they get stacked up. And if you've ever been behind one of these trucks, you can tell it's not your typical 2x4s or whatever others wood used in making homes and other constructions. They're really thin, and they don't look like a pallet that you might be accustomed to seeing if you're out there driving around. As pallets are used in all kinds of things. I don't even know what pallet wood comes is commonly used. I'm going to say pine for pallets, but white oak is a important thing. And again, I need to get a distiller on here to further explain why exactly white oak is used, but it has a certain flavor evidently, and that flavor is used, and why they choose the white oak for the barrels, because that, I guess, aging process mixed in with the oak gives it a really good taste. In fact, a lot of these stave places also have what they call, I think it's white oak sticks, and they're like between 1 and 5 pounds. And I think you might even get these as individuals at certain stores, and you can actually add sticks of white oak to your liquor to help further the process. Again, I stress, I am by no means an expert on whiskey making. I don't even do it in the creek behind my house, illegally or anything like that. I have an appreciation for all things Southern, and I know a lot of you out there really enjoy whiskey, good whiskey. I mean, I've even got a guy who's a very good pastor, and that's his hobby. He collects all kinds of spirits from across the Southeast, and he likes to drink them. And there's nothing wrong with that. But it just shows you there's no shame. I mean, I've been to Bardstown. If you haven't gone to Bardstown, Kentucky, for example, one of our distillery capitals of the Southeast, it's a really cool town with lots of places in that area. People go on tours of not only Lynchburg, but go up into Kentucky for the distillery tours. Beautiful part of the country, beautiful part of the Southeast. And these other smaller places that have distilleries, maybe not quite as big as Bardstown, they have a very important product they're out there trying to sell and market. And so with that in mind, with the appreciation of it and just how it's a economic boom for this region, believe it or not, when President Trump was having these tariff wars with Europe, that was one of the first things that they kind of put a retaliatory tariff on, or embargo on, in Europe, when America threatened to stop importing French wine. Well, the Europeans and the EU said that they would stop importing our Tennessee, Kentucky, and other southern spirits from coming into Europe. Well, that wasn't very nice of them. But yeah, it's a bargaining tool, and so it's kind of neat. But stave, again, let me pull that graphic up one more time in case you were too busy running to the cabinet to get your favorite top shelf item. Check it out, stave. And I have a very smart guy that I know. Ask him, hey, what is a stave? Do you know what stave is? And he didn't know. So that's why I felt like maybe, if nothing else today, besides learning about the spirit industry, we can learn a new word, because this English language thing is kind of difficult. We got all kinds of words. And stave is a pretty neat product of the English language, specifically when it comes to white oak and turning it into what many people consider a delicious treat. And our great distilleries across the South do a good job with that. So hopefully you enjoy. And one more time, this is a whole nother subcategory I need to get into with y'all because drinking is one of my favorite things to do. Not necessarily alcoholic drinking, but just drinking. I've got to have something near me. I don't know about y'all. And it's usually a soft drink or sweet tea or half and half, usually tea. A lot of people don't know what half and half is. That's kind of odd. But let me get this last sip of Milo's sweet tea. There's an interview I need to conduct soon. Is how in the world a Birmingham-based hamburger chain has taken off to have their sweet tea in stores all over the South. See, this is the kind of stuff we talk about on the Y'all Show. You don't get this anywhere else. Let me get this sip. Ah, man, that's good. Only at y'all.com and only at the Y'all Show. And it's an honor for me to sit here and be your chief drinker. We'll be back with more. We've got great interviews coming up. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe. Don't forget that we are the South's voice. We are the Y'all Show. And we thank you for all that you do in tuning us in and helping us grow. And if you've got suggestions, if you've got great ideas, maybe you know a really cool distiller that would make for a great interview, let me know. Of course, we need sponsorship too, but that's another subject. It's y'allshow at y'all.com, YALL show at y'all.com. That's how you can get in touch with us. We would love to hear from you anytime because we are the show that shakes the Southland. Thanks for tuning in.